Landscape changed. Possibly the biggest thing that's happened in wrestling since a certain Hollywood heel turn in 1996, if memory serves me correct. I don't think we've ever had a bigger moment to discuss in wrestling, perhaps CM Punk's firings in the past. To break down on this particular channel, the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast with me, Adam Cousins, and my co-host, who has kind of given everything away with his background, which is great, Dave Robinson. Welcome back and good. Yeah, it is evening. Good evening, mate.
Good evening, mate. How are you?
Still trying to process the last 24 hours in wrestling. I mean, we don't always sit here. We'll get into everything that happened in a minute. I mean, we don't always sit here when something has, well, landscape changes happen. It's not happened well, very rarely happened since we started this show with Andy and Parker. And as I said, the CM Punk thing probably being the only kind of real thing where we've jumped on a pod and gone, shit, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm going to start with a hot take before we get into all of this. And I'm going to say that Elimination Chamber, with everything that went down, with the in-ring quality, with the ending, in my view, it's the best WWE pay-per-view in decades.
Okay. Well, I thought it was phenomenal. And if you think about the talent that what wasn't in the show as well, I
Hmm.
mean, I know obviously Cody was on, but
Yeah,
Cody wasn't wrestling.
yeah.
No Roman, no Bloodline, no Jay, no Gunther, no IC title, no US title. And still, for us to come off the back of that, and with you saying one of the best in decades, certainly one of the best shows in recent memory, certainly one of the best elimination chambers I can ever remember.
Mm,
I thought the women's match was particularly strong.
mm,
Thought the men's match was really good. Certainly the final third of that match.
mm.
I think Drew going out so early was a little bit of a surprise, but kind of made sense in terms of where they're going with his WrestleMania match. So yeah, there's very, very little to criticize. Even the tag match for Trish, you could
Mm.
kind of give them that one and say fair enough, given the fact that it was in Toronto. Um, it's a respectful thing to do for Trish Stratus, 25 years in the industry. So I got no real problems with that match. I thought KO versus Sami Zayn is match of the year so far for me.
Really?
Personally, yeah, I absolutely loved it. And we see we see unsanctioned matches, hardcore matches, street fights, falls
Mm.
count anywhere. I think how WWE did that match last night, even though we've seen Sammy KO so many times, it just seemed special. It just seemed to kind of stand alone as, a phenomenal match. It just felt like a huge, I don't know, it felt like a WrestleMania main event
Mm.
type. They'd set it up, and the fact that, the little touches, the little details, the fact that the ref had his gloves on from the get-go, expecting blood.
Yeah.
The fact that his t-shirt wasn't a WWE referee shirt, it was just kind of like, we're washing our hands of this. What'll be will be. Whatever they do to each other is it's happening in our ring, but it's totally unsanctioned. I thought it was great, but obviously I think we're going to talk about Mr. Cena more than anything else in the next half an hour to an hour. So, um, what you said, comparing it to Hulk Hogan, I couldn't have said it any better myself. I mean, the only one straight away I can think of is when Stone Cold aligned with Vince, and that didn't really. It was a great moment, and it was a
Yeah.
shocking moment. Um, but it didn't really. I don't know. I think the pieces in place with The Rock and the final boss and Cody, and some of the things that were said are just really, really exciting. They're going into WrestleMania season.
Has it bumped it up now for you? Because I'll be honest, I was sitting here 2 weeks ago and I was doing reviews and I was talking to some people that had a couple of collaborations and I was sitting there going, do you know what? I'm not even really fussed about this WrestleMania. It's done enough this year. Didn't really do anything, wasn't really doing anything for me. Um, I sort of kind of looked at it and was like, Jey Uso, good for Jay's going to win that. That's obviously his crowning moment. I was kind of thinking, is he actually going to get there? I thought maybe CM Punk might have tried to insert his way with a favor that Paul Heyman still owes him. I was maybe thinking about that. But I wasn't really massively excited for WrestleMania. that changed throughout the course of the evening, even at the start. And again, we'll get into the women's match. We'll get into what happened at Kevin and Sami, which I agree with you was an all-timer. And at the end of this match, once Elimination Chamber went off the air, I couldn't agree with what Triple H said in the press conference. And he's just like, "Guess we're on the road to WrestleMania now, right?" And at that
Yeah.
minute, I was like, I mean, before then, I was just like, now I'm excited for WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think since the debut on Netflix, to be honest, I think it's just gathered even more momentum. I think we've seen record crowds, record gates, and that's been pretty consistent since Triple H really took over the reins, officially since Vince
Mm.
was fully out of the picture. But I just think in recent months it's got and just that like strength in depth of the roster and the different things they can do on Raw and SmackDown, the fact that you can have whole shows with no mention of Roman Reigns, and it still be as phenomenal as it was. No, was there no titles there was no title defense at all.
No, none, no.
Absolutely. For us to be praising the show so much, the crowd loved it. I mean, huge, huge shot. I mean, there was some rumors, I suppose, online or fan theories
Yeah.
really that if Cena wasn't to win the chamber, would he kind of do a deal with the devil, align himself with The Rock, But I don't think anybody could have predicted it going down just how it did last night. And on top, aside from the heel turn and what we saw with Cody, I thought the bits with Punk in the match, and that's
Yeah.
probably because we're of a certain era, and we kind of hark back to Punk Cena, that initial feud before Punk left, and there was some really nice callbacks there. I really liked the moment when Cena offered his hand and Punk
Yeah.
gave him a hug, and then they went at it.
Yeah.
So I just think that attention to detail is really paying off. And yeah, I've got to say, in recent months, I've really, really been enjoying the product. And I think last night really just capped off some really good storytelling.
It certainly did. Right. Enough talking about the ins and level, the skirting around. Let's get in to it. Look, the women's match kicked off the show, and before it even begins, the return of Jade Cargill. Now, a lot of people, if you haven't been keeping up with the product, Jade Cargill was attacked. She was put through a real glass window on SmackDown. Apparently, there was an injury. There was a lot of rumors. Oh, this has happened. She's been sent back down to the performance center. She's taken time away. Yada yada yada. Turns out it was a legit injury, but they had to write her off TV, so they did that. And then a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown, Nick Aldis showed a video which showed Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan running away from the scene of the attack. So at the start of Elimination Chamber, Naomi's in the ring, Liv Morgan is in the ring, and all of a sudden, Jade Cargill's music hits. Liv Morgan mouths the word fuck, which you can clearly, you don't have to be a lip
Yeah.
reader to see that. Then she's like, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And I think Jade Cargill then kind of said, when she got in the ring, she was like, I know it wasn't you. And she goes to for a beeline for Liv, then sidetracks and absolutely demolishes Naomi, Bianca looking on in the background. There was one quick thing I wanted to, because it made me laugh. When Jade was walking into the chamber, I think she thought that the door was still not open because she was trying to open
Yeah,
something
yeah,
that wasn't there. It reminded me of the Triple H t-shirt thing when he had already taken his shirt off during an attack and he tried to retake it off. And there was
yeah,
nothing there. She come so she got past that obstacle, but then she absolutely decimated Naomi with Bianca looking on. Now, first off, Dave, with this, I wanted to make two things here. The look that Naomi gave Bianca when Bianca was still in the cell, when Jade come out, I think is going to be telling. I still think there's more to this. We'll get into the rest of the chamber in a minute, but I mean, that alone, that start alone kind of set the tone as to where this show was going.
yeah. And on its own, like a great moment and a surprise, and as you say, really set the tone. I thought Jade looked great as she always
Mm.
does. But when you've got this story as well, and this mystery, as you say, I don't think it's by any means concluded the fact that Jade attacked Naomi, and it was as simple as Naomi took her out. I think there's more to it, and yeah, I think that the partnership with Bianca, the jealousy. I think when they were a team, Bianca was eating a lot of those pins if they were to
Mm.
lose, which they
Yeah.
didn't lose much, but really Jade was booked very strong. So there's a lot that can still do there. So yeah, ultimately, I think. I don't know. I don't know which way they go for WrestleMania now because obviously Bianca won the match as well,
Yeah.
which we'll get to. And Liv, not only in the match, but before the match, that part, I thought she played her part to
Yes.
perfection. I thought, that was such good acting. And as she went towards Liv, there was no question in my mind that she was going to take Liv out. Like that was what I was fully expecting. It fully swerved me, and yeah, it makes sense as to what happened and why she did it. But yeah, Liv selling totally sold me down the river.
Yeah, definitely. So look, let's get into the match really quickly. Really strong. I think it may have been. I don't recall a better elimination chamber, women's one,
Yeah,
than the one that we saw last night. You're correct. Bianca Belair did win the victory, but I wanted to just quickly touch on Liv because you made a good point there of her selling of that bit with Jade, and she is one that's totally kind of not surprising, but I remember when I first come on this podcast, I was talking to Andy and Parker. It was just after Clash at the Castle, and I had said at the time I didn't think Liv Morgan was championship material at that particular time. This is nearly 3 years ago now, obviously. In that match, she was the absolute MVP of this match, and the character's obviously right for her. She plays that so well. The in-ring work. I mean, look, we sit here. We've done a little bit of wrestling, but never on the quality of those guys. Hence why we're sitting behind the microphone talking about it instead of doing it. But she, for me, has been a kind of like she goes so under the radar because everything else that went goes on in wrestling, not just in this match and this pay-per-view. She has worked wonders with everything that she's done, and she just definitely deserves. She's deserved her flowers, and she's deserved her title reigns. But for me, she has been one of the best, if not the best, women in the WWE over the last 18 months or so.
absolutely. And the accolades kind of stand up as well. I think she's the only woman to have been in every single women's rumble.
Yeah.
She has been a number of these elimination chambers now, and she's always produces on the big stage. And as you say, she's got better and better over the last year.
Mm.
You remember when she was kind of introduced to the main roster and she was part of the Riot Squad with Ruby
Hmm.
and Sarah Logan?
Logan. Yep.
Out of the three, if you said which one's going to go on to be women's world champion, Liv would probably th be third on that list at that time.
Yep.
And for her now to kind of have the career that she's had and continue is having, is just testament to the hard work, not only in ring, but the character work. Everything that she does is solid. She's just one of the most consistent performers WWE have got. And yeah, she was a huge part in the success of this match overall.
Yeah, she definitely was. Bianca Belair when it rocked. Big shout out to Roxanne Perez as well. She was really good, and she
Yeah,
has been really good since. She's kind of, I can't say quietly being called up because she is still on NXT. I mean, that roster's stacked. We know there is an injury to Julia, which is gonna. I don't agree with them putting unifying those championships together. By the way, I'm not a fan of what they're
yeah,
doing down there with that. It's obviously Stephanie will win that, which is fine, and Dandy Jordan Grace is down there as well. If Roxanne has been quietly called up, great. As long as they've got a story for her going forward, maybe with Bailey could be something like to do with her and Bailey. But Bianca wins this. Again, such a great chamber. Kudos to all of the women in there. But I mentioned this when Jade was coming out. The look that Naomi gave Bianca. Now, Bianca will go on to WrestleMania to wrestle either Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, or Io Sky. That matches tomorrow on Raw. Listen, it doesn't take a genius to work out that it's probably going to be Rhea Ripley in a
yeah,
throwback to a Royal Rumble of a few years ago when they were both sitting on the apron and I think Rhea went on to win that
yeah,
particular Rumble. Which listen, I'm looking forward to that match, but I'm just wondering, is Bianca Belair because let's face it, she didn't exactly get excited when Jade come out. She was worried when Jade attacked Naomi. Is she playing dumb in this, or are we setting up yet another amazing heel turn, a first heel turn ever for Bianca Belair in the WWE?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really can't decide on which direction they're going to go in, but I'm just not convinced that, as I said earlier, it's Naomi, end of mystery.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think that Bianca played a part in it, or she knew about it. Did she instigate the whole thing? Because Jade obviously it wasn't a heel turn from Jade. It
No.
was a reaction to be
No.
taken out. So I just thought the way that they did it and the way they set up the match was great. One slight criticism I've heard online is the fact that I think Naomi was took out early in the chamber last year. I
Ooh,
don't
good shout.
recall what happened. So, like, if that is the case, 2 years on the bounce,
Mm.
Naomi has been in this feature match and not really been in the match, if you like. But
Mm.
I thought this was perfect. I think the way they did it was great. The fact that they didn't replace her with Jade
No.
was more. I don't know. It was more effective having Jade come in, take Bianca out. It's like it wasn't about being in the match. It wasn't about titles or getting an opportunity. It was about revenge. It
Mm.
was about vengeance for being taken out and for missing the last few months of action. I mean, she's been out a while, hasn't she,
Oh,
Jade?
oh, yeah,
Uh,
4 or 5 months or so, I think. Yeah, a
and
while.
obviously, we know there's a legitimate injury there, but in terms of the storyline, she's been taken out for a significant period of time, and the fact that she just wanted to get her hands on Naomi was much more impactful than her just trying to replace her in the match. So, yeah, I thought it was a great, great way to start off a really, really good show.
Yeah, indeed it was. Yeah, you're right. Naomi was eliminated first last year in 13 minutes in the women's match in Australia last year. So yeah,
Yeah, so she was in it, but she was first to be
yeah,
eliminated. You like that was the only thing, but I think what they did this year when Naomi was a lot more. I think it's part of a proper story. So the
yeah.
fact that she wasn't in that match, I think it is actually a positive.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think last year she'd only just come back at the Royal Rumble, didn't have a story for her,
Yeah.
so eliminating her first last year probably made sense. This year it made perfect sense because there is a legitimate reason for her not to have gone any further in that Royal Rumble because there is that separate story. I mean, if it happens a third year, then there's problems here because there isn't. First year fine, she's just come back. Tiffany Stratton, yeah, fine. This year, Jade Cargill, you get a second pass just because there's an underlining story that goes along
Yeah,
with it. Not
yeah,
not a third year. I wouldn't want it to happen again. You kind of mentioned Trish next. Now she was next. This was a nostalgia thing, like you said, 25 years in the business. I think it was just to get Tiffany Stratton on the card as the women's world champion as well. They were never going to lose against Nia and Candice. Tiffany's got Charlotte Flair coming up at WrestleMania in a couple of weeks' time. So again, you're right though. I mean, this whole show didn't really build. There was no real WrestleMania build other than the two chamber matches and then the end, which I think was interesting, but in a way great. But this particular match, it was a nostalgia thing. Great to see Trish. Great to see Tiffany. Result was never really in doubt with this. Probably good filler for what comes the unsanctioned match which followed, and a kind of try and keep the crowd there, but understand if it got a bit deflated after the first match.
yeah. Trish was always going to get a good reaction in Toronto, and I think she doesn't seem to age. She's still performing at a very high level, and I think if she really wanted to, she could still be at least semi. You know, not even if not full time, she could appear regularly and not look out of place at all because she's just such an impressive performer, absolute legend for the WWE and a trailblazer in the women's division. So to begrudge her this moment would be very harsh. But as you say, no real massive like storyline or too much going on there. Just a nice little tag match before the chaos that ensued in the unsanctioned match that came after.
Yeah, definitely was, and we'll see. Tiffany and Charlotte, though, Dave. I just wanted to touch on that quickly. Obviously, WrestleMania Women's Night One or Night Two, I don't know. Are we going to see here? Is this Charlotte coming back to win this match? Is Tiffany going to get the massive win for her career. How do you see that one? I mean, we'll obviously you'll probably be on for the WrestleMania reviews anyway, but I just wanted to get your sort of early thoughts on that. Where do you see that one going?
Yeah, my hope at the minute would be that it's kind of a defining moment for Tiffany Stratton, getting that big win over who many consider the greatest women's wrestler of all time in Charlotte. That might not be an opinion shared by everyone, but that's certainly an opinion from a lot of people. I tend to agree, to be honest. I think some of the matches, some of the things she's been involved with, her consistent high level of performance, the real main event matches that she's had against the likes of Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley and others is just, you know, is it how many titles has she title reigns has she had? Is
Close
it
to her dad. That's
close to it? I don't know if it is 16. It's
close.
yeah, it's a significant amount of title reigns. Um,
Part of me says 12 to 14, I think already. That's
yeah.
where I think she is.
But I think there's a real opportunity here to really make. I think Tiffany Stratton's great, and she's had a great year, and rightfully carrying the title at the moment. But I think a big victory against Charlotte Flair on the stage that is WrestleMania would be something that sets the WWE up longer term than Charlotte getting another victory. But who knows? There might be some kind of trilogy, or we'll see what happens in terms of, the quality of that match. But it's not really in doubt for me. I think they're going to have a great match. I'm kind of hoping that Tiffany comes out on top in that.
Yeah, I do hope she does. I don't think she will.
Yeah.
I think they'll go down the Charlotte route. My theory is, and I don't know who's coming up in. I mean, they're doing a draft after WrestleMania. My suspicion potentially could be Jordan Grace comes up because she's not going to be spending too long down in NXT. That's kind of already been written that she ain't going to be there too long. I see her potentially coming up and being the one that dethrones Charlotte, maybe at WrestleMania next year. I don't know. Maybe she goes for the Raw side of things. Rhea Ripley. I mean, Rhea Ripley. I mean, Jesus, that could be amazing if that happens. But Rhea may or may not be champion come the end of WrestleMania. We don't know. So yeah, I think Charlotte will win it. I do think Tiffany deserves that career defining win. But I think it will go to Charlotte, unfortunately.
Yeah. If it doesn't happen for Tiffany this year, she's got plenty more years ahead of her.
Yeah.
So it's not like it wouldn't be a massive mistake. I don't think if they did go with Charlotte, Charlotte's still in her prime, really, or, pretty much. So and the only thing that would concern me is she has had a problem with injuries in recent years. So, how kind of fit is she in terms of her injuries and, her ability to have a long reign as a champion or be a significant part of the program week in, week out. Whereas, for me, Tiffany's been doing that and she's earned that right to, get that WrestleMania moment and get that big win on the biggest stage that WWE has.
Yeah, she has, and we will see. Probably around a month's time, I think, not too long away. WrestleMania 41, her against Charlotte Flair. I think now we can call the rest of this show absolute chaos, but in a great way. And it
Yeah.
starts with an absolute all-timer. And you hit the nail on the head. These two guys, Kevin and Sami, have been feuding since Ring of Honor. They have gone around probably around the world, feuding for near enough 2 decades in what they do. And every match what you're guaranteed with these two is a great, great match. This was beyond great. As you mentioned there, it's your match of the year so far. They left it all in this ring, or everywhere they went. They had barbed wire chairs. They had everything you could imagine. As you said, the referee wore street clothes. He wore his gloves because it was unsanctioned. And I think this is one of the things where I would say, and what I've noticed with the way perhaps Triple H books it, is that there's little things that he does, and when he does it well. And that's the thing, like the referees in street clothes, the referees in gloves, because look, we're not sanctioning, the WWE is not sanctioning this match. We don't want anything to do with this match. So
Mhm.
why should a referee have a WWE t-shirt on? It makes
Yeah.
zero sense if they so those little bits that he does on top of what we saw in terms of action, Kevin Owens picking up the victory in nearly half an hour of just absolute kicking seven bells of shit out of each other in this. But you have to credit Triple H on those little bits of attention to detail that perhaps were lacking previously, because that made it feel that much bigger. You looked and you're like, shit, that referee's not wearing a ref shirt. This really is unsanctioned by the WWE.
It is. It just made it feel special and it made it feel very different to the normal presentation of even this type of match, to be honest.
Mm.
It wasn't a street fight, it wasn't a hardcore, it was unsanctioned. Yes, very similar in terms of some of the action, but they pushed the boundaries with that and we saw things that we don't really see in WWE very often, which makes it more impactful for me. You don't get accustomed to seeing it week in, week out or every pay-per-view. So when they do it and they do it so well, and the performers that were involved in it as well. And what I really really like about WWE under Triple H, and a lot of this is Michael Cole as well in the commentary team
Yeah.
because they're given full freedom and reins to bring up whatever relevant information they see fit. And talking about El Generico and Kevin Steen on WWE television.
Yeah.
That is that is just fantastic for wrestling fans. It's not insulting our intelligence. It's referencing things that has happened. It's adding extra layers to the stories. It's making newer fans want to go back and see some of that and watch some of that archive footage, which just for wrestling as a whole, I think that's great. Just as a bit of a sidebar here, I know you were a big TNA fan, and I know
Yes.
Chris Bay picked up an injury, and they're doing
Yes.
a fundraiser type show for Chris Bay, aren't they?
Mhm.
And I read today that Karrion Cross has
He
been
is.
confirmed for that
Yep.
show.
Yep.
And we've got some AEW guys, we've got
Yep.
TNA guys, we've got Ring of Honor guys. So I just think, and I'm not saying it's going to be some super show and it's WWE versus AEW or anything like that. Just the fact that that is a possibility, that
Mm.
all of the companies can come together for the good of wrestling and the good of the performance and such a great cause. And unfortunate, we
Yeah.
would rather that Chris hadn't picked up that injury, but the fact that that's a possibility in 2025, I think that's fantastic. So those little moments and referencing TNA and yeah, referencing Ring of Honor and on WWE television, I just think that adds to the overall product. I really do.
Yeah, no, I agreed. And the great news is obviously the ones who haven't seen recent posts from Chris Bay is that he's walking already.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things we don't know, look, we wasn't in attendance for the TNA tapings. It has never been shown on TV. The only people that really know what happened are the people within the confines of that arena. We know that Chris Bay was paralyzed from a move that got happened during these matches with the Hardy Boys. So it's a long road ahead from him, but he's taken the steps. I mean, that's literally taking the right steps because he is walking, getting up, and doing stuff again already. Will he ever get back in the ring? I don't know. But yeah, you're right in exactly what you're saying is that, the fact that WWE, AEW, TNA all can all come together for the greater good when it needs to. It does, it does really well. It's what it should be doing. And you're right, Karrion Cross is going to be there, which is great. AEW stars are going to be there, which is great. But for this one, I mean, look, it wasn't the end. The match also ended very nicely. If you remember back to NXT days when Kevin Owens,
Yeah.
he'd won his match already. Sami Zayn won his match that night. I think he won. Or he may have lost. I can't remember who. Maybe was it the one he took on Thunder Liger? I can't remember. Anyway, at the end of Sami Zayn's match, Kevin Owens then was walking him back to the ring, and he then power bombs him onto the ring apron, which is exactly what he done to win the crazy unsanctioned match. But the match hadn't finished, and here we go to WrestleMania again. Kevin Owens, I think he went to package power drive Sami Zayn, which, and again, when WWE does really well is those types of moves that are banned, they hit and then they put people out. And I love the fact that it's done that. And one of the people that Kevin Owens had put out with that package power driver to the neck was Randy Orton. And coincidentally, the moment that he tries to package power driver Sammy onto the concrete, we hear those voices again. Randy Orton returns. He gives Kevin Owens an RKO. I'm assuming that's where we're going towards WrestleMania. which should be. I mean, Randy Orton is still one of the absolute best in the world at doing it. He doesn't have to do it a lot now, which is great. Career-ending back injury, as we all know, up to a couple years ago. Great to see him back after his injury from the package power driver. Again, a great way to end the match with the throwback to NXT days, and a fantastic way to bring Randy Orton back in, Dave. But on top of that, where does Sammy go from here?
Yeah, I think again attention to detail, those callbacks to other matches. It's just so rewarding for long-term fans. Um, in terms of Orton, again, another great moment. I feel kind of bad for him because the last time he returned, it was kind of overshadowed by it was Punk's return, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's the second time Randy's come back, and on its own we had the Jade moment, but
Hmm.
another huge moment which we just seem to get more and more of with every pay-per-view that they, and maybe that's because the performers, we do get to forget about the perform, or we get to miss the performers a little bit. So when they do come back, it's just that even more special. In terms of what Sammy does, difficult one because I was really back and forth with this as to who I wanted to win this match between Sami and KO. I
Mm.
didn't really want Kevin to lose again, but after losing at the Rumble. Um, so if I'd have had to commit to a winner, I would have gone with KO. In terms of Sami, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether this means that we're not going to be seeing Sami for a while, which would be a huge shame because um, for the last few WrestleManias, he's played a real significant role and he's
Yeah.
been in some feature matches. But maybe, going back to what I said about Randy, maybe by missing Sammy for the next few months, when he does come back, that's an even bigger moment. And I think there's plenty more Sammy KO moments yet to come in both their careers. I don't think just because of the careers they've had and how intertwined they are, I don't think they're done with each other just yet. I don't think
Probably not.
they will be.
No, I don't think they're taking that to then grave those two. It will be interesting. We'll see what happens with Sammy. Yeah, we don't know. And there's no been. I mean, I haven't read of anything in particular for him, so we'll have to wait and see.
No, I don't. I don't think he's necessarily injured or anything like that.
Mm.
But yeah, Triple H seems to, similar to Tony Khan in AEW. They seem to have a lighter schedule these
Mm.
days. Maybe Sammy's going to be taking some time off. I don't know. Well, I think I like what they did with the punt, and I loved Wade Barrett's commentary
Yeah.
about now the security are doing their job. When they brought that up. I love that tease, and I'm assuming, regardless of who wins the match at WrestleMania, we might be seeing a punt on the big
Oh
stage.
yeah, I've got a feeling that's yeah maybe that gives Kevin some time off. I don't know. He's just signed a
Yeah,
new
yeah,
5-year contract, I think, with WWE. Kevin Owens, so he's going nowhere.
sure.
Any-
And I think Randy signed a long-term deal, didn't
yeah,
he?
5 years. Yeah, another
So,
couple of years back. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I think Randy's got a lot more still. He's an all-timer. He's a absolute definite Hall of Famer, but he's not done yet. And he's got, we'll see what happens over the next few years. But the short-term future and the match with KO at WrestleMania should be a good one.
Yep. Interesting enough, if you are interested into what wrestlers think about lighter schedules, it's a question I put to Rob Van Dam this past week. You can go and watch that on the playlist, which is below this video. So just hit the playlist, go down to special guest interviews. He'll be the last, well, he will be the last one on there because this is going out the same day we've recorded it. So yeah, he'll be the last one on there. There's plenty more on their way. So find out what he thinks about if wrestlers were if wrestling was to have an off season. That was the word I used, off season, not light schedules. Go and check that one out. Before we get to the main event, I just wanted to quickly touch on the Hall of Fame. Plans are not still up in the air about when that's going to be. Two people have been announced. Michelle McCool announced for the Hall of Fame, and Triple H on his own announced for the Hall of Fame. Two, I don't think there's any question, two deserving people to go in there singly.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. As you say, Triple H is already part of it, the Hall of Fame with
Yes.
DX,
Yep, yep, yep.
but yeah, even I mean, I suppose it could have happened at any time, really. It could have happened any time in the last few years. It could have happened any time in the years to come. So I think absolutely him getting his flowers on the big stage. I couldn't be more pleased with that. Can't imagine any wrestling fan has got any problem with that, really. Michelle McCool, great career in its own. Would she be going in if she wasn't married to The Undertaker? don't know.
Yes.
Is that controversial? I don't know when. Oh, she's had a good career, but I wouldn't put her up there with the likes of Trish, who we were talking about earlier, or people like that. I don't know. Maybe I am misremembering a little bit. I don't remember Michelle McCool having like a 10-year career where she was at the top of the women's division or anything like that. I know she's held championships. So maybe that's a little bit out of order. I'm sure any viewers that don't agree with me will be letting us know in the comments.
I'm
But
just scrubbing the Undertaker off the list of guests to come on
oh well, like I
the
think I think if you look at the Hall of Fame and everybody in it, there's
show.
some dubious ones
Yeah.
in there. I don't think she necessarily fits the dubious category.
Yeah.
Um, but she wouldn't be the first person on my mind to induct. I don't know. I need to kind of think about that a little bit more, I suppose. I think Stephanie, by all rights, should be, recognized at some point, but with everything going on with her dad and the McMahon
Mhm.
name over the last few years, we might be a while off seeing her. But I certainly think she, in terms of contribution to WWE and sports entertainment, is more significant than Michelle McCall. But what do I know?
Undertaker, just to let you know, those views are only the views of Dave Robinson and not me. And I'd
Sorry,
still be happy
sorry,
for
Mr.
you to come
Calloway.
on the show. No, I'm only messing. No, listen, it's a good opinion. It's a great, honest answer to that, which is what we like about it. We don't want to bullshit and say anything if we don't think someone's deserved. We've got, you're not saying that she's not deserved. You're saying there's
Oh,
people that should have come before her. That's what you're saying.
yeah, I think it may be something that is a talking point or a
Mm.
question. I don't think it's someone where you would go, Triple H straight away. Yes, that's
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. We're talking about Randy Orton. They were talking about Punk, Rollins, and Cena when they were in the ring in the main event that
Hmm.
we're nearly at.
Hmm.
And there's certain performers and wrestlers that are trailblazers or they've had such long careers and I don't and again, it could well be misremembering. I don't know how many years she was kind of active. Um, and it was probably during a period where I tuned out a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember her partnership with Layla, and I
Yeah.
thought that was very entertaining, and I loved the stuff they did. I remember there's some good stuff with Mickey James, which I don't know if Mickey James is in the Hall of Fame. She's another one that,
I think she is. Well,
yeah, I'm not sure. So yeah, great career, but I think it is something that, not everybody would say 100% she should be in, and other people would be like, yeah, yeah, she deserves it. So
I'll tell you who won that isn't in there and that should be in terms of the women, Miss Elizabeth.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, if that was coming up, you'd kind of, career, you'd know. But yeah, listen, it's a great question that you've put posed to it. You're not saying that she should be, she should be. You're just saying there's people in there that perhaps should be inducted before Michelle McCall. You
Well, I
would put
don't think he's was China inducted in the end.
no,
No, see, it's definitely not China.
no. Oh God, you're gonna let me check socials now because you're gonna get me. Otherwise, I'm gonna be in trouble. Uh,
Yeah, I know that she hadn't, and for a long time people were saying,
oh, yeah, she was as part of DX, but not on her
yeah,
own, not on her own.
yeah. So for me. I think Miss Jacqueline, I think she's in, and Sunny's in there, isn't she? And
That'd be taken away anytime. Though.
yeah, um, but yeah, to be honest, Dad, I haven't really spent a great deal of time thinking about whether I thought Michelle McCool should or shouldn't be. But as you say, there's people and it is subjective, So I'm
Of course it
sure,
is.
I'm sure some people will be like, absolutely, she should be in there for reasons X, Y, and Z. But interesting to see what other names are added. We've all got our list, haven't we, of people that we'd like to see recognised, and I just can't say Michelle McCool was on my list. That's
No,
all.
that's fine. Absolutely fine. No, not a problem. There is a tag team though that looks like it's heading that way. They've now been added back to the WWE. And again, if you want to see their interview with us, you go down to the playlist. That is Axe and Smash of Demolition. They've now been re-added back to the WWE page. Long story. They had a lawsuit for concussions and that going on with the WWE. Yeah, they've now both been added back to the page, which is kind of hinting that they did say in the interview with us that was offered to go last year, not into the Hall of Fame, but to go to WrestleMania. They couldn't do it, but there's a team right there, Dave, that you would, without a shadow of a doubt, needs to be in a Hall of Fame.
Definitely, definitely, 100%. I wouldn't. I wouldn't suggest otherwise with those guys.
No, no.
Again, they're no friends of the show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
Yeah.
no, they would be. But I get your point with Michelle McCoy. I do get your point. Look, let's begin with this. Let's talk the men's elimination chamber before the end of the every shit that happens at the end, which just gone crazy. The men's match was really, really good. Drew been eliminated by Damian Priest. I think that's kind of where they're going. Maybe a bit.
Yeah.
If you're a Drew McIntyre fan, are you a little bit disappointed with that? I don't know. Maybe people could say Logan Paul is kind of unknown at this point. There was talk of him going against Punk. There was talk of him going against Cena. I think there's more to the Punk Rollins and Reigns thing. Maybe that's the route that we're heading down for Punk and Rollins. Rollins did stomp Punk, which led to the finish with Cena locking in the STF and Punk passing out to the pain. You did do it right. There was some nice touches in there with Punk and Cena in what was a fantastic men's elimination chamber. There was a lot of talk, and I love this talk. What WWE is doing really well at the moment is throwing people off the scent because there was talk early this week that Drew was going to win the Rumble. Lot of the reputable sources was putting out, "Oh, Drew's going over. Drew's going over. Drew's
Oh, in
going
the
over." So,
chamber.
yeah,
Yeah, I saw that as well.
yeah.
Saw
So
that.
I think what WWE are doing good at the moment is they're kind of throwing curveballs out, which is great for a fan. I mean, myself, you, and everybody else that does. I tend to stay away from social medias on pay-per-view days because I don't want to know what's going on. But I read that in a week about Drew, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I was expecting when I was watching it, I was thinking, oh, Drew's going over. So for him to be eliminated first I was like, shit. Well, they totally, going against the grain of what the reputable sources being wrong, which is good. Cena winning the match. It was interesting because apparently again they had the Cody segment listed after. I think it was before the Kevin Sami match. They was going to have the Cody. That's how it was listed backstage apparently on the day. Triple H, obviously the man now, it says, now fuck this. Like that's how I'm putting it up there, but I'm doing things going my way. So that segment hadn't happened yet. So I did assume that perhaps something was going to happen with the winner of the Rock. But then when it was Cena, I was kind of like, well, maybe Cody's going to turn then because
Yeah.
you would kind of, and fuck it, we'll start talking about it now because it was here. CM Punk made a great point though. When he had an interview, a promo with Cody, he said, "I'll stab you from the front. I'm not going to stab you in the back. I'm going to be a man and stab you from the front." Well, funnily enough, in a minute. So The Rock comes out and says to Cody, "I want your soul." Blah 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 blah. And Cody said, like, "You know what, Rock? I want it all." And I was like, "Oh, here we go. He wants it all. What are we gonna? Is he gonna align himself?" I thought because he was wearing. I think the other day Cody come in wearing a black suit, and I was like, "Oh, Jesus!" Because sometimes they kind of throw a little thing out there beforehand, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well, actually, they did throw something out here before this happened, and I'll get to that in a minute. Cody said, "I want it all." He said, "I sold my soul to the fans years ago," and I was like, "Oh shit, they're not going with it." And then I kind of think on this, and when he said this, I was like, "Christian done it first," and as much as it was great when Cody says it, because you're not used to hearing the word "fuck" on WWE television over a microphone anyway, because Liv Morgan did mutter it, but Christian Cage said it in AEW when Adam Copeland, he said, "Go fuck yourself," and then Cody went, "Hey, Rock, go fuck yourself." And the crowd blew up. Cena was jumping up and down. Travis Scott was there. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
have no fucking clue what that's all about, other than Dennis Rodman, NWO kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then he turns around and he hugs Cena. And then the camera pans to Cena's face. And Uncle Fester, not Uncle Fester, Ernest. Is it Ernest? One of the film star. I can't quite remember the analogy. You're gonna have to look it up, some people. And he looks angry, and the Rock goes like that, and then it cuts away. And I'm thinking, nah, are they actually gonna do this? And bang, he kicks Cody in the nuts. He stabs him in the front or in the chest, like CM Punk was alluding to. He punches him with a fucking Rolex. Jesus, I mean, I hope that's a fake. I mean, that's all I'm saying. I mean, that's got to be a fake watch, right? He punches Cena in the face. He locks him in, he hits him with the belt. He hit him with that belt and all. If you heard the noise that belt made across Cody's head, I don't know if that was like a kind of a throwback to Cody's dad, Dusty, who would always kind of, when he got hit, he was always kind of hit properly and he was bleeding. And then Travis Scott decides I'm going to haymaker him when he's like on the floor. If you've seen it, he doesn't hold back. Travis Scott punches Cody Rhodes in the face. Cena locks in the STF. And we have now got the biggest heel turn in wrestling. Does it eclipse Hogan? I suppose that's a question I'll ask you in a minute, Dave. But instant reaction to something. I mean, this was spoken about. If you see Chris Van Vliet, he had an interview. He said, this was going to happen when I was facing The Rock the first time. He had the clothes, he had the new clothes, he had the new theme music and everything like that. Maybe he needs to dust that off and bring it to WrestleMania. But we're sitting here, when this kind of a heel turn of this nature, and you mentioned Austin, and I'll give you that, but the heel turn of this nature when it last happened was probably 1996 when we were very much teenagers, near enough. Watching it now when I'm over 40, you're getting there. I don't know if you want to set me to say that, but to have a heel turn of that nature on WDTV when you're old enough to kind of understand the business was absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Uh, it's just making me want to go and whack and watch it again, which, as big of a wrestling fan as I am, I don't necessarily do that,
No.
but I just thought the execution was perfect. I thought Cena's, I mean, he's a Hollywood actor, so is The
Yeah.
Rock. So you would expect the acting to be pretty good, but it was just the facial expression, that moment of change, that signal from The Rock, and how it all played out, and everything from that point. It was like this. I cannot wait to hear Cena speak in, like, because I think he was in the press conference and he
Drop mic.
picked up the mic and he dropped the mic and he walks
Mhm.
out, which again I like that. But when he does actually speak, I just can't wait. I mean, Raw is going to pop some rating if he's advertised. Is he advertised for
No,
Raw?
he's filming in Africa.
Oh, is he? Is he? That's a shame. That's a shame. But at the moment when he is announced for Raw, that will still be that huge moment, whether that's a few weeks away. I'm talking about Cena, not The Rock. He's
Mhm.
Cena filming in Africa.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh,
he got on a plane directly after. Well,
did they?
that's what the Rock has said. Now, is that
Okay.
just a sent throw off to so that he is on Raw? I don't know, but according
Did
to the Rock, he's seen as filming in Africa after
yeah.
from the next ball. Who knows?
I just the thing that makes it even more shocking for me, because turn Cena heel, turn Cena heel, turn Cena. We've heard that for what, 15 years or something,
Yeah.
and it's never happened, never likely to happen. The Make-A-Wish, the merch, the kids, the all of that. But to do it now with so little left of his in-ring career, it even made me think, is that part of it as well? Has it been that well structured that they are doing this Cena retirement tour, but actually that's just part of this character that they're creating and they're scheming and they're putting this together, which was how we don't get many surprises of this magnitude.
No.
We just don't. And as I said, I did read bits and people, because I'm much the same. I'm thinking that Cena is going to win that 17th world title at some point before he retires. They ain't going to have an opportunity to get somebody there anytime soon. And Flair's title reigns weren't just exclusive WWE, whereas Cena's were and are. Every single reign he's had have been WWE, not even WWF.
Nope.
So for him to take that record absolutely makes sense. Now, I don't necessarily think he's going to beat Cody at WrestleMania. I think he can go on, and I think you said Jey Uso probably going to beat Gunther. So maybe that's the direction that Cena will go for that title. But with so little left of his career to do this, yeah, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it. My head's still spinning, and I they absolutely, again, they got me. Didn't see, even when the way Cena's reacting when Cody drops the F bomb and he's jumping up and down, and it's like overly goofy, but that is what we've come accustomed
Cena.
to
Yeah.
with Cena. Um, just perfection, just so good. And anybody that is watching this and hasn't seen it, you just need to go to Netflix and watch it back. Even if you just watch the last 20 minutes of the show, be well worth your time, because it was just a huge moment in wrestling that we'll still be talking about in 20 years' time. I'm
Definitely
sure.
so. Definitely. Shout out to Michael Cole, by the way, on commentary. He was the why you got to do this shit or whatever he says because he was emotional. But I don't even know if the commentators actually knew because there was a lot of it that was kept very
Yeah.
much in house.
That,
The need to know basis.
that was a very kind of, and Michael Cole's a great commentator in his own right,
Mhm.
and many people would consider him the greatest of all time. But for me, that's JR, and that was a very JR type reaction to
It
such a
was.
huge moment. And yeah, from the commentary to the in-ring performance to the way that the main event was structured, um, the Rock signal. The only thing I didn't like, and I didn't really understand why he was there, was Travis Scott. I don't even know who Travis Scott is, to be
Singer,
honest.
rapper.
Yeah, he had some kind of hybrid WWE hardcore title. Don't know what the significance of that was, if anything. Um, yeah, you said the Rodman thing, a bit of NWO vibe, but I don't think it added. Did it add anything to it? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure it did,
No.
to be honest. I don't really know what he was doing in the corner when they were talking about Sage or something like that. I'm like, what? As you
I think
said.
he was smoking a rather, shall we say, green substance that
Okay.
maybe RVD would have liked.
Well,
For
as you alluded to, I'm hurtling towards 40 and I'm not particularly down with the kids. So I don't really know what that was in the corner. He looked kind of cool when they were doing the posing and he was just resting on the ropes and The Rock
yeah,
was standing there and Cena was put his foot on Cody's head and he was holding the title. It was a pretty good visual, I'll give them that. But um, yeah, I'm not sure. WWE is so good at crossovers and getting attracting mainstream media attention. So who am I to question that? If he's somebody that they think can attract more eyes to the product, then who am I to criticize that? But yeah, that was the only slight thing that I would say. Perhaps that wouldn't be something that I would have added to it. Everything else was just sensational.
it was. So we get move on to WrestleMania. There's a couple of things quickly before we start wrapping up. One was Stone Cold has come out in August of last year because he was meant to do WrestleMania 40. They couldn't, something couldn't happen. He couldn't do it. And he came out in August of last year and say, if Cody needs any help in WrestleMania 41, I'm there. Well, look at the two guys are behind you, and you think
Mhm.
of Cody, and you think who's missing out of potentially Stone Cold could be alongside Cody. Cody could go and get him ahead of WrestleMania. Have him in his corner. I'm not saying The Rock's going to wrestle and Austin's going to wrestle, but no chance. What I mean is that The Rock's obviously probably going to be in Cena's corner, I would think. Who better to have in Cody's corner than Stone Cold Steve Austin to really full circle that? Maybe he could stun Cena. Who knows? Maybe stun them both.
Yeah,
The,
yeah,
the
it's
other
a
point,
fascinating one.
yeah, the other fiction is The Rock hinted at a third because he done this before, and that was for him because that was I think Bad Blood. He ended up with the two fingers for Cena. Now he's saying three. So is he alluding to a third man? I'm not saying it's going to be Hulk Hogan. He's the third man in '96, but if there's a third man, who are we looking at for that?
I'll tell you what I would love.
Go
Batista. The
Batista.
three most successful Hollywood actors from the WWE have ever produced. Would you
And
go as far as saying that?
yeah, and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame at some point, right? Because he was meant to do it. COVID didn't happen.
Mm. No,
So
I think Batista was quite happy how his career ended, and I don't think he necessarily wrestles. I don't know.
absolutely.
If it was a trios match or something, I don't know. But yeah, Batista, Cena, and The Rock in terms of Hollywood crossover, there's something there potentially. I was talking about that visual, and then I've just realised it's behind my head. It's very much the picture that I've put as my screensaver. But yeah, that's cool. But would it be even better if you had Dave Batista taking the place of Travis Scott and some of the stuff they could do there? I know of
And
it.
on top
Yeah,
of that, you got the history of Cena and Batista in the ring,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Royal Rumble, the injuries, the comebacks. They've all Batista. I think injured Cena during a match at SummerSlam. I think they had when he caught Cena off the top into the power bomb and things bits and pieces like that. So there's a history that cements those two as well. On top, they were the biggest stars in WWE of those times as well.
So I just when we see Cena next, is he going to be Is he going to be in a suit? How are they going to present him? Um,
He's going to
how
wear one of those
what,
flared bottoms that The Rock has got on.
yeah, what's he going to be wearing when he does come to wrestle? I mean, and it's not. We're talking as if it's like Cena's last match at WrestleMania. I know we're into his last year, but there's going to be a number of appearances throughout the course of this year. Um, I'm just intrigued as to how does it end? Yeah, how does Cena's in-ring career end, given what has happened last night? I mean, are we being worked? Is the potential that this was the plan that Cena was going to retire, but given how huge this is and what will come off the back of it over the next few months, is that still the plan? Was it ever the plan? I'm all over the place, Ed. I'm all over the place, but in a great way. I absolutely love it. I love the unpredictability. Um, I'm loving what I'm seeing from in the world of wrestling right now. We've had ups and downs, and we've had a pretty long, sustained period of wrestling in a really good place. But every time you think it can't get any better, or you've seen it all, they do something like this.
Yeah, and that's across the board as well in every
Yeah,
promotion.
yeah.
They're doing some great stuff, which is great to see in wrestling for sure. We will find out. I mean, Cena has been advertised for the European leg, so they're coming to Europe before WrestleMania. He's been
Yeah.
advertised for that, so he'll be there for that. So we may not have too long. That's only a couple of weeks away, so we've got not too long to wait before we see it. But wow,
I really want to see him in the ring, whether The Rock is by his side or not, with a microphone, and I just want to hear what he's got to say. And I think that little touch in the press conference was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Reminds me a little bit, and on a bigger scale, really, when Jericho came back and he teased talking, and he just didn't, and it
yeah,
just built that intrigue. This is on a whole new level because of who John Cena is, and I think the natural successor to Cena is Cody, and we're getting that huge match at WrestleMania as well, which again, I expect Cody to win that match. Um, but who knows? Who knows what direction this goes in? The plans for WrestleMania last year were set and they changed it around this point. So yeah, I'm just can't wait to kind of see how it all unfolds. And I think we're going to have some great episodes of Raw and SmackDown between now and WrestleMania, which I think it's actually later on in April this year. So we've got a bit more of a build than we normally would.
we do indeed. Cody is scheduled to be on SmackDown this week, as of right now. Anyway, we'll see if it does transpire. We'll wait and see. But wow, what a start! And the great news, just for us fans over in the UK, is WrestleMania is on Easter weekend. Fantastic, absolutely brilliant for us. Anyway, so
Yeah,
be
actually, my stag do.
oh dear, Dave. It's
Yeah, that could be good though. Could be
yeah,
fun.
it could be fun. Could be
Look out
fun.
for this.
But we're in for a great Raw this week as well. But coming up on the show, as I said, I just want to re-thank RVD for the great interview he gave me and Matt Edgar the other week. That's going to be fun. Coming up, we were going to be recording the two bonus episodes of Independent Showcase with Burning Heart Pro Wrestling and Atomic Pro Wrestling. We're going to be talking and Valor Wrestling as well up in Scotland. Our good friend Fiona Lochran knows that very well. We're also going to have the season 3 is going to be in recording very soon. We're starting with a referee. I can't go into that at the moment. We're going to be bringing back Katie, one of our referees. We had Katie Cosby on, and she's going to come back and do a top 10 oh my god moments. When you check Katie Cosby's independent showcase out, you'll know why she's the most passionate wrestling fan and a referee they could ever see. Also, we're going to have Gangrel coming up soon. I know you can't wait for that one, Dave. A good personal one for you. And signed, or I'd say signed, I don't like to say that word, but coming up very soon, a very special interview with a daughter of a former wrestler, a wrestler that's no longer with us, unfortunately. That is going to be the daughter of the big boss man will be joining us very soon. So it'd be nice to get some stories about what life was like growing up. Lacey Trailer will be joining us for that as well. But Dave, it's been great talking some WWE with you. It's a bit of a strange one. Normally it's the other side of AEW, but it's great talking some WWE with you today. We'll see you very soon. But guys, this has been Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, the Elimination Chamber review. Check us on HTT Buckle on X, HTT Buckle on Instagram, Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on HTT Buckle on YouTube as well, and on Jesus on YouTube, on X, Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on all other social media platforms. Back this week with a load more shows. Keep it locked, keep it loaded, keep it subscribed. And until next time, everybody, now you can see him. Buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.